Hey fellow YouTubers, today we're going to shoot a video about upgrading the gear on the E-flite Viper 70mm Gen 1, which you see here that I'm showing, and I'm going to put the Gen 2 gear on for this airplane. They look like they're greatly upgraded from the originals. So in order to do this, I think, and we're going to work through this together, I think what we need is about 4 different part numbers from E-flite and from Horizon. So the first thing you need is the upgraded gear. They're really nice looking, and we're going to open them up here in a minute and inspect them. But these look really nice. I think they should be substantially better than the stock that came with this older Viper. It's part EFL 1129. Next, you'll notice there's a vital piece missing. If you look at the two main gear here, you'll see that there's a pin coming out. That pin is what goes into the retract. On the front gear, that pin is not included with this set. So you have to order this set, which gives you 3 pins. Of course, the longer one here in the middle that you see is the one you're going to need for the front gear. And that's EFL 1270. You'll have 2 extra pins, I guess, for the rear gear in case, in fact, you need them. And then some other things I've noticed is the tires on the new one are much softer. That is EFL 077504. Now, the reason these are not in the E-flite box is I had to buy these on eBay. Apparently, they're on back order at Horizon Hobby, and I bought a pair off eBay that are, I'm going to call them slightly used. Someone either maybe crashed their Viper or upgraded their tires to something else, and there is just a little bit of wear on them, but for the most part looks like they should have plenty more landings on them. So I got these so I don't have to wait. I think at this point it's like a 2-month delay to get the new tires. What's different about the new tires, the original tires on this Viper here were hard as a rock. It's like rolling concrete. These are actually quite soft compared to the old tires and squishy. And so I think that's a good upgrade for probably bounce and just the general sound it makes rolling down the concrete with the old ones were terrible. Lastly, I've got a piece here that I don't know if I need or not, but we'll get into that when we start tearing it apart and find out. This is called the steering arm. It's EFL 1269. The steering arm on the new Viper, as you can see here, is metal. And looking up inside of this Viper here, you'll see that the old one on the original is like a plastic. And because of that, I went ahead and got it. I didn't want to have to, this thing's like $5 or something. I didn't want to have to pay shipping to get this piece if I needed it in the end. So I went ahead and got it. And we'll go ahead and upgrade it to the one that they have. I don't know if it's required or not, but we'll find out. So let's get started. All right, I've got the Viper flipped over, and as you can see, I actually don't have the stock gear anymore. Back when this Viper was newer, I bought some of these gear off Castle RC. Honestly, I'm not even sure they were actually better than the originals. They have this spring right here, and when you hit the ground, they roll back like this, and the spring is really loose. You can see how far it can bend back. And so if you have a hard landing at all, these spin down and then spring up and thrust the plane up into the air like a trampoline, and you end up with a very bouncy landing. So not really been happy with these. I guess they're probably better than the originals as far as they don't get bent because they're much more sturdy, but they do create some very high bounce landings. Some people may say, why are you upgrading the gear on this plane? Well, this plane actually flies amazing. Now, you'll see right here before we get started, I've actually broken the nose off this plane once. When we first got it, I would try to land this jet. It was my first jet at the time, and I would try to land it like a prop plane and get it really slow. If you haven't owned a Viper before, know that they're notorious for tip stalling, going really slow. So coming in for landing now, we keep it at about half throttle with full flaps, almost all the way into the point we touch down, and then at that point we kill the throttle. So after we started doing that, we've had much better luck as far as tip stalls go. But let me do this. What we're going to do now is I'm going to take these Castle RC gear off. because that's not going to be really part of the instructions. And then I'll explain when we come back how we can continue just as if you still had the stock gear. All right, as you can see, I've taken the gear off of this plane, and then as you can see, once again, the Castle RC, the springs are just too weak, and it just bends and trampolines it back up. But the idea is actually similar to the new ones in that there's a hole in the bottom, a set screw, and a pin, and the pin sits down, you set the set screw. Except this pin for Castle RC, this piece right here, is actually the original gear in which we just sawed it off, because the old gear were just wires. And so on each one, I simply come in and sawed the wire off to make a set screw. Now I'm going to go ahead and replace that today with the ones that E-flite wants you to use. And so at this point, this is basically like a stock plane, except yours is going to have the wire coming on up and a wheel on it. Mine's the piece of the wire that I've cut off. Other than that, you should be able to do the same thing on this install moving forward. Okay, so now that we're in position here to install this, this is the gear for the rear right main, and you can tell that because there's a flat spot right here on the pin, which you're going to go in here like this, and when it closes, this used to be the little cutout for the spring on the gear. It should close down, and that should fit inside that. So let's give it a try. The first thing we got to do is we've got to close the gear, and then you're going to need I think it's a 1.5 millimeter Allen wrench. You're going to put that right here, and we're going to see if we can't loosen these up and get this pin out of here. Okay. Uh-oh. I think that one's stripped, so that one may be a challenge. So, all right, things don't always go as planned. Apparently when I put the Castle RC retracts on, or gear on, should I say rather, I must have stripped out that Allen set screw off camera, outside the scope of this video. I basically, let me just show you here. I basically got a drill and drilled it out. I was able to get it out. Luckily, with the new pin set we were talking about earlier, it came with another set screw. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the new gear on, and in that process, I will probably add a little bit of Loctite blue, not red, obviously. And let me show you. All right. You can see here, this is how you know it's the right retract for the right rear, which is what we're working on. There's a flat spot on this pin here. That's going to go towards the outside of the plane. And when it folds down, this piece right here needs to go where the spring went on the original. So with that, we're going to stick this in here like that. And then I'm going to close it. Looks like we got a good fit. Looks like it's going to fit perfect. And now, to show you what I've got here, I have, like I was talking about Loctite. Here's some blue Loctite. This is made by, here we go, here's the name of it. And the USA part number 24010. It is like a little gun, and like chapstick. You turn this, and it puts some on the end. What I usually do is put a little bit on the end like that. Let's see if I can get this on camera. Take my set screw, just touch it to it, get a little bit on it, not a whole lot, just a tiny bit on the threads to help lock them in. And now you can see on my, let me get it on a background here where you can, it'll focus. Now I've got just a tiny bit there on the end of the set screw. So now I can take the set screw and insert it into the hole. Now you may have to come back and straighten these once you get the wheels and tires on them and all that stuff, and I'm not going to set them tight just yet. There's one set screw in. Looking for the new one. Here's another new one. I went ahead and got new ones since obviously I had stripped that other one in a previous time. Here's what's left of the one I stripped. I drilled it out, and there's the other 3 old ones off the 2 back gear. And now I'm going to put some on this set screw. All right, moving on to the second screw, kind of the same thing. We're going to touch this to the, get a little bit on the threads, just ever so little. And then you can see here, let me get it on focus, you can see I got a little bit on the threads. And then if I can steady the camera, we're going to put this right here. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to tighten these down real good yet until we get the whole thing done, and I'll go back and make sure all the wheels are straight and all that good stuff, and then we'll finish it off. But there, we got the rear installed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring the gear up. Ooh, that is pretty, ain't it? And then we're going to install the wheel. All right, to install the wheel, the same size set screw. Once again, we're using a 1.5 millimeter. It's right here on the bottom of the gear. We're going to turn that and loosen the set screw. Let's see how loose we got to get it. And you don't have to get it very loose at all. And that takes the axle out. Put the axle through the wheel. And then once you put the axle through the wheel, once again, there's a flat spot on this pin. You want to put the flat spot pointed towards the ground, or at this point up, like that. And then we're gonna tighten it down. Let me make sure I got the flat spot up before we do that. Yep, flat spot is up. And then we tighten it down like so. It's not really focusing, but you get the idea. Okay, off camera, what I did, as you can see, I decided to go ahead and take that set screw out and once again use this totally awesome little tube I got on Amazon of Loctite, and put a little bit of that Loctite on the threads, and let's see how it works. Let's cycle the gear. And that's a perfect fit. Really pleased with how that turned out. I will go back and tighten the other two screws now, and then come back on video. Okay, so I did the second main gear off camera since it would be the same. I had much better luck this time. I did not have a strip screw, so it only took a matter of a couple minutes. And I went ahead and used the Loctite on everything. Both seem to be working well. They fit in there really nicely. E-flite did a good job of retrofitting this gear here into this little spot, the spring part of it, and worked out really well. And off camera also, there was a set screw that was pre-installed right here that holds this gear to that pin. I was actually concerned that E-flite did not tighten it properly, so I took one out. It appeared to already have Loctite on it, so I don't think it's necessary to take those out or tighten them. But anyway, now we know. All right, time to move on to the front. Okay, off camera just a little bit. I kind of pulled this loose by getting a screwdriver up underneath it. You want to be careful with this thing. It's actually pretty expensive for a piece of plastic. It's like, I think it's like $9 or something. So I carefully remove the glue that's up underneath this piece of plastic here. And that way, perfect. Come on. That way I'll be able to reuse this now when we get this put back together. I had to do that to get in here to this. So here's the piece I pulled off. But I needed to do that to get in here to this retract. The next step is to undo the 4 screws. This one's actually quite a bit more complicated, to be honest with you, than the rear. That's why I started with the rear. If it wasn't for that stuck strip screw, I would have had the rear done pretty quickly. There's 4 screws right here I'm going to take out. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's on each corner. There's some other screws on here. Let's not take those off yet. Let's just do the larger ones on the corners. Okay, I've removed the 4 screws. You can see here they're missing. You can see the white down where they're screwed into white plastic. To pick those screws up, if you don't have a pair of these forceps like this, you can buy them where you buy fish supplies. You can buy them on Amazon. But I find them really useful for picking up screws and stuff. Once you unscrew it, you can reach in here and pick them up and get them out of there if it's kind of a spot too narrow for your finger to fit. So definitely recommend getting a pair of those if you're going to be messing with RC cars and planes very much. All right, so the next thing I got to do is, this is loose now. I can feel that it's loose. But the steering mechanism goes back to the servo, and I need to figure out how to get it out without bending this right here. That right there. I think one thing is I could take the servo horn off, which may be the best choice. It's just when you put it back on, you have to make sure that I usually turn the plane on, center this, let the servo center, and then remember where it was. And if you look, it's kind of at a 90-degree angle right here. So it'll be getting it back in that right tooth when we're done. But I think the easiest thing to do for now is probably just take the servo horn off. Okay. Let's see if we can get this. Maybe I didn't unscrew it quite far enough. It's always a possibility. The other thing you can do sometimes is get your fingernail underneath the lip of the screw like that. And if you got fingernails, you can get it underneath the lip and lift it out if it doesn't fall over. All right, now with that, we can probably just lift the servo horn off. Maybe easier said than done here. Okay, servo horn's off. The next problem is you got this little area right here where the wire has this little clip, this little plastic clip that's part of the plane, and the wire goes in up under that clip. Let's see if we can figure out how to work it out from right there. So I put this down here, get this down in here maybe, and then maybe I can kind of force it under. I'm gonna try to lift it out and see what happens. See, if I lift it up, it's gonna get stuck, and that's not what we want either. So maybe just kind of force it under like that here. Just a second. All right, so let me try this again. I'm gonna come in here, like try to get this underneath this plastic. There we go, and get it lifted out of here. Now that we've got it lifted out, I'm gonna pull just a little bit of the servo tape out. A little bit, there's stickiness on this, and it's in a little channel. We'll put it back in a minute. Now we've got to take this, actually got to take this whole thing apart, because this pin is not made like the other pin. And the first thing I've just realized is I did not need to buy this part here that we talked about earlier. I thought it looked different, but now being out of the plane, I can see it's actually an identical part. So we will probably just save this part. If mine looks like it's in good shape and it appears that it probably is, this doesn't appear to be bent, this pin here. Maybe bent a little bit. I'll play with it. We'll determine if we're going to put a new one on or just leave the old one on for now. But there's a set screw right here to take it off. It's definitely going to need to come off anyway. So let me find the size. That actually looks like a bigger set screw. It is. Let me go for a larger size and see what we come up with here. All right, looks like it's going to be well, this is labeled a 5/64, but it works out quite nicely, as you can see. Let me make sure I understand how this goes back together. It was this way, so this was at a 90-degree angle to the plane here. We want to make sure we get all this set back correctly. All right, slide this off. Now I can set this whole entire jig to the side, steering arm, and now we got to figure out how to get this pin out. And I know I've taken this apart before, or at least on a previous plane, and this is actually quite difficult to do. And see, this pin actually kind of spins in here. It's got a C-clip on the back of it. Let me get a little screwdriver. Okay, and now I'm going to take these 4 little screws out right here. Like I said, they're little. We got to be careful not to lose them. I didn't buy any parts kits that comes with extra of this stuff. So, got to be kind of cautious getting this stuff out of here. Like I said, the front's a lot harder than the rear because you got to take a servo apart, and this is going to be a mess. And actually, at this point, I'm going to unplug the airplane because I'm getting ready to open the servo. I don't want weird things to happen. So, plane's unplugged now. Taking these 4 screws out. There is another option if you want to spend a little more money. You can buy on their website a part number, and I'll try to put it in the comments if I remember. You can buy this retract with the gear already on it as a single item, but of course it costs quite a bit more because you're buying the retract also. So it's definitely going to make this easier, but at the same time it will cost you more. So we're going to do it the hard way, and if we fail, I guess we'll figure it out. But now I got 4 more screws to take out, unfortunately. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to pause while we take those out. We'll be right back. Okay, so I took the 4 screws out, and I'm going to help you out here in case you didn't notice. This screw right here, the one that's right up next to this metal piece, this screw in this corner, is actually a little longer than the rest of the screws. So when you get ready to put them back in, you figure out you got one screw that's longer. It's this one right here that's the longer one. All right, let's crack this thing open. See if we got all the screws out, we can get it open. And that came apart. Cut this right here. To be able to get it apart, you have to cut the label. No big deal. Label doesn't really mean. Oh, and look, there's 2 more screws up here. We'll be right back. Let me take those 2 screws out. They're right here under. There's one behind the label, and there's one right here above the label. And you have to kind of stick your screwdriver through the label right here to get to this one. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, I got these 2 out. Just so you know now, for future reference, this one, and this one. The ones closest to this big block here are actually longer, and the ones on this little round barrel, 1, 2, 3, are the shorter 3. So there's 3 of each type of screw. Now let's see if this thing will come apart. Hope I don't find some more screws on it at this point. I feel like this. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's apart. Let's take it apart really carefully here. Okay, now this is where things get ugly. There is all kind of gears right here. And then there's a roller, like a screw pin right here. And I really don't want to have to pull all that apart. So we're going to attempt to do this just a little bit different than what I need to get to. Is there's a clip right here, and I'll show you. I'm going to go ahead and plug the plane back up. Safety throttle cuts on, and throttle's down and throttle cuts on. So we're going to go ahead and retract this back, and maybe I'll be able to get to that. So here's the retract, and the answer is no. Fail. All right, so I guess we'll do it the hard way. So I think we take this has got to come further apart. Still trying to do this least damaging as possible, but it don't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like I got a. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So I've got this big block out, and now we're going to work with this block. This is the pin. Let's move over here. This is the pin I have to remove, and it's an old style C-clip. And then I've got a new pin right here that I'm trying to install, and it looks like it's got some kind of new fandangled C-clip that I don't really know much about, but we'll see if we can get it on there. The bad news is they don't give you any extras, and this is actually can be quite tricky, and you could lose it if you make it fly across the room. So let's see if I can take it off with none of that happening. First, for the old style C-clip, I think what you need is a really small screwdriver. So I'm going to switch to a really small, not really small, but a small tip. Probably this one. It's pretty. We'll go with pretty small. So what we want to do is you put the thing right up right. Let's see if I can get in there to it. You can get right in behind the clip a lot of times. I'm going to rotate the clip around, and then you put this right in behind the clip, and you try to pull it off, and I'm not able to get in there behind it, so I may have to use a different technique. Okay, now I'm going to put my finger on top to hopefully stop it from flying across the room if I was to actually get it to pop off. Let me try to get the screwdriver in behind there, and then I actually pulled it off, and then right there it is. And that's the old school. So what I was doing is I was putting the screwdriver right in one of these little notches. See, there's 3 notches that's sticking out. and I put it in between right there, and then I pulled it away like that, okay? And I put my thumb over the top because that little thing can go flying across the room like in no time. All right, so then I just pull that out, and look, it's pretty severely bent from some hard landings. So it'd be a good time to replace it anyway. We're going to put this new one on here, and then there's a little indentation right here to put the C-clip. So that end goes in here like that. And you know what? The interesting thing is, I could have lifted the clip on. It was just stuck, and I didn't realize it because it was bent, so it wouldn't pass through. This one passes all the way through, so we can probably almost cheat. Let's see if I can magically somehow put this little tiny clip on. There's a little edge right here, and like I said, I cover it all up with my fingers the best I can, so that if it goes flying, maybe my finger will stop it from flying very far. That might be harder to push on there than I thought. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab me a pair of needle nose pliers. See if I can capture this on video. Hold it like that. You got it in focus? Okay. And then, since I can do that, I'm going to see if I can maybe grab more of it by doing it this way on the side. Like that. Let's see if I can force it on there. I guess I'm old school, and the only C-clip, the little clips I know about are these C or E clips or whatever they're called. I don't know about these new ones. I may have to put the O on there if I can't figure this out. I'm putting part of the pressure on there. It's not going on. Let me try a different approach. Put that little thing on there. Kind of pull it apart. See if it'll slip on. I don't know. I almost think I like the old style better. I don't know what this, unless there's an easier way to put it on that I'm just not familiar with. Oh, I think I finally have figured out what I'm supposed to do. It seems really risky though. If you got a pair of needle nose and pulled that apart, you maybe could slip it on, but that seems like if you let go, it's going to go flying. Not in the way we fly airplanes. Folks, let's go with the old school and see if it fits on there. Alright, so here's the one I took off. So what you normally do is set it on there like this, where it's kind of off but on, and then you just take it and you and now it's on. I like that one much better. I don't know what this new thing is, so we just go with the old one. Now that I've got it on there, there's no reason to figure that out for now. Alright, and then you just slide this down. Once you've got this clip on like that, you can slide the pin down through there like that, and it catches. And let's see if we can get this thing back together the way it was intended, which may be a challenge. Alright, so this looks like, looks like this. You have to raise this shaft out just a little bit. It's like a screw shaft. Lay that in there. And then set this down. Okay. I'm trying to think of how this would work. I think I might have the whole thing in there backwards. This may go in here this way. I should have paid better attention when I took it out, huh? No, it goes the other way. It's got to. Okay. No, it's got to go this way. It won't go in there the other way. All right, so we drop this down in there like that. And then on the back, there's a hole I'm trying to hit for like this piece on the other side. Okay, No, it's got to go the other way. All right, so we're gonna turn this back around. And this is, like I said, the hardest part of this whole install. It's gonna be taking this retract apart and getting it back together in a working order. So we're trying it the hard way. You can buy the whole thing assembled. But if you ever bend that one little pin, it's nice to know you can buy just that one little pin. Thank you, Horizon, for selling just the little pin. That's so much better than having to buy the entire system. And that's the most likely piece to get kind of broken, is that little pin. So we do appreciate the fact you sell us that one pin. Okay, I'm going to take this whole piece out right here. And I'm going to put this in here and make sure I understand how it fits in. Okay. It fits in there like that. That's it. Oh, I had put the retract up. There's the problem. Okay, now that I figured it out, I'm sure y'all are watching on the video thinking, duh, come on, man. All right. So the difference is I was trying to put it in with the retract down, and the retract needs to be in the up position as pictured here, like that. And now you put everything back together, and then you cross your fingers just right and hope that it all still works. So you lay it all in there like that, and from what I've learned, the retracts kind of fix themselves after you reassemble it, like as far as resetting to the right place. This little wire, this little groove right here in the plastic where the wire comes out, you're going to want to make sure it's in there and not pinching the wire and thus making it not, you know, wearing a hole in the wire on the inside or something. So you're going to want to make sure that wire comes out that little hole, and then you're going to want to see if you can get it all back together. Now, what do I got wrong this time? I think these two little things right here are sensors that help make that decision on when it's opened and closed. And so that's why it's important to put the retract together before you really try it. I tried to do it earlier without, with the retract apart. But I think this sensor right here is actually what, there we go. This sensor right there is actually what determines if it should stop the motor from running to stop the retract or not. And I think I didn't take that into consideration. These little two sensors look like the things that do that. Let's see if I can get it in there. All right, now as I said, remember that wire goes in that little groove right there. Let's see if I can get it to close up now. So we'll come back. All right, not really sure. I jiggled with it for 10 minutes and I finally got the case to close. As you can see here, this is not in the right position. Now what you got to be careful is when you turn the gear on, it should self-reset, but this pin, there's nothing stopping it from going that way yet because we haven't put the little steering piece on. So you got to hold this pin out. I guess technically you could hold it by that, and while you flip the gear, and it should reset. See, it knows when to stop. And then see, what you got to do is, though, see how this is, you don't want it pushing down when you close it. It'll get stuck and you have to take it all back apart. So now that we have that out, and we can see that when we tested it, notice I flipped it over so it stayed down. Now I'm going to leave it in the up position. Well, I'm going to leave it in the up position, but I'm going to go ahead and put all the screws back in that we took out. So we're going to do that while the video is on pause. Okay, now that I've got the 8 screws back in, remember the long 3 were this one, this one, this one, the short 3 are this one, this one, this one. Now that I've done that, you can see that it's all back together. Of course, I did not use Loctite on those. You never put Loctite on plastic. If you remember correctly, I had it upside down and the steering gear, the steering mechanism arm was here. There's 2 flat spots. It's going to go on the lower flat spot, so you're going to slide this down over it. And I'm probably going to try to figure out, let's see, where to, like I'm going to gauge it. There's a flat spot there. And I'm going to try to gauge like how far to push this down to line the flat spot up, which looks like it's probably right. It's going to be difficult, but hey, nothing's easy, right? All right, let's turn this back to where the flat spot's pointed up. And then I'm going to lower this onto there to about right there. I think I'm doing this wrong. I think it was on this way, folks. That's the problem. Okay. So you put this on, then you grab this pin and pull it out. And then you line up the flat spot. The flat spots on the pin, there's 2 of them. You line the flat spot up here with where that screw is. You get your, like in my case, it's a 5/64 screw, Allen wrench. Tighten it down. Oops, see, got to pull the pin all the way out. Pull the pin all the way out. All right. All right, now I think we're in a good spot where we got this all put together. Just kind of give it a little snugginess there. Snugginess, that's right. New term. Trying to think if this is correct now. I believe it is. And then this goes. No, something's backwards. So I'll put that in there, right? And then when it closes, it'd be like that. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Okay. So then we're going to lay this down. Oh, no. You know what? Sometimes you do things wrong. Let's see if this still works. Forgot to put this plate on here. So we slide this plate in, and it still fits, luckily, even with the arm. It might still fit with the arm. Yep, we can make it go. All right, so we got to get this plate screwed back on real quick. There's 4 screws. I'll go off camera and do the 4 screws that hold this plate to the bottom. All right, so I've got the 4 screws back in this plate, the mount plate, I'm gonna call it. Now, if you remember, I lowered this down in here, like so. And then I think I had this kind of over here in this little crack, and then I kind of just barely bent it up underneath that. So we should be good to go there. And now the next step is, of course, more screws, because that's what we do. We put these 4 screws in here to hold this mount plate down. And there's 1. We're going to do the other 3 off camera. Okay, so we're back. We got that put back in. The 4 screws, of course, once again, no Loctite because they screw into plastic. Last thing you want to do is melt your plastic. Now I'm going to take this servo horn and we're going to slip it back over that. Now to make sure we got all this lined up, I've got the plane on, and so that way, well, now I got the plane on, my bad. Got the plane plugged in. We'll let the servo center up. Now that the servo's centered up, if you remember, this servo horn was pretty much at 90 degrees, so maybe we can find the right. It looks like I might have got a little off on it. Of course, in the end, I can fix it with this set screw, but you know, it's just better if you don't have to. So I'm gonna try for right there. There's teeth it's got to line up with. I think that's probably as good as it's gonna get. And if you remember, it had a little bitty tiny Phillips screw, goes on the top of here. Now this is metal into metal, but you don't have to use any kind of Loctite, because there's a plastic servo horn, and you're going to squeeze it kind of like a washer, and that's kind of like a lock so that it doesn't come out. So really you don't have to go crazy on this. You just give it a little pressure. It will then squeeze that plastic right there, and that's what's going to hold it in ultimately. All right, so now let's try to cycle this mess, and hopefully I got it. Okay, that cycles down. And then we got our steering. All right, so now I think it's time to install the gear as soon as I find it. Here's the gear laying here. We're going to do similar to, goes this way. There's flat spots on the sides. I'm going to find my correct tool here. I'm going to back these out just a little bit. In fact, I don't think there's any Loctite on that, so I'm going to put some Loctite on it. I think that's just the safest thing to do here. This sits on here. Now I'm going to try to ensure that we line these up perfectly with the flat spots. I think it'll kind of self-align if you get it close. Then I'm going to put a little Loctite on the threads. Like I said, just enough to work the threads in. Okay, that's one in. We're going to get the other one put in real quick here. And we're almost going to be done. Okay. Now, the question is going to be, but what happens if the steering doesn't steer straight when you're done? This adjustment right here, you're going to loosen this right here. You're going to straighten the wheel and tighten it back down. That's the easiest way to adjust this whole mechanism. Because remember, if you've got a 6-channel receiver, it's going to be, your steering is going to be shared, your steering circle is going to be shared with your rudder. And I can already tell you mine's not straight, and I'll just correct it right here once we get to that final step. Like all the other ones earlier, we're going to take this pin out, which is the axle. And then I'm going to put the tire on, like yay. I'm going to find that flat spot and put it at the bottom. And then I'm going to put a dot of Loctite on here. Okay, and some people may think that's unnecessary. I don't know, but I've been messing with RC stuff for a long time, and I don't like my wheels to fall off in the middle of flight, and I don't like my gear to fall off in the middle of flight. So I think it's not going to hurt anything to go ahead and put a little bit on there. I think I should scoot it in. There's a lot of play in that front wheel. There we go. I think if you kind of make this flush right here on this side, the wheel's not locked up, but it's also not got excessive play in it either. Okay, so now we just cycle the gear. Okay, like I said, I think this is not straight, but when we're at the field, we'll put this in here and I'll straighten it up. The other thing I forgot to show you is earlier when we had to pull the servo out, there's the servo wire. There is a little groove, and you just there's a little groove, and what you have to do is to keep the servo wire out of the way, this little servo wire goes in that little groove that's been cut in the foam, just like that. If it's coming out, you can put a little piece of tape over it, like right here in this area, and that should secure it good enough that you know. The other thing is find some sticky glue of some sort, put a dot of glue on it, and that would also take care of it. It's not a wire that moves, so it doesn't need to be held in really good, but you don't want to get caught up in the actual gear opening and closing. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape over it in this flat area right there, and that will help ensure that it doesn't come out for some reason during flight. All right, and the last step, which is to take this right here, and you're gonna, well, that's the wrong way. There's a little hole right here, and remember that adjustment I was talking about? That hole lines up with it, so that's how you know you got it on the right way. This glues on right here like this. We take it, get it down, and we straighten the wheel by putting the screwdriver in here and hitting that little brass fitting on the end of the servo horn right here. And you can straighten the wheel, and we'll call it a successful install. But you will need to glue this back on. I'll do that off camera. All right, what we're doing here is we're putting a little foam tack. I love this stuff. It's great for foam airplanes, foam tack. Putting that on the back side of this, and it'll be fine to hold this on. And then we just put this back down right here. And we position it where we want it. And then, of course, I just told you on the last video that the hole goes on the other side, and then I turned around and did it myself backwards. So, hey, it happens. All right, so then we put it back on the right way. I was like, that don't fit right. And it fits almost perfect, of course. And a little foam tack goes a long way. And then, like I said, you put your screwdriver through here, down to this, loosen it, straighten your front wheel to your heart's desire, and then we'll give it a try. Now, let me see what we got here. All right, if you could just step back and show the whole plane, we'll cycle the gear and see what happens. Okay, and then we got steering. Got steering working. Got gear working. Several successful attempts already. I think at this point, folks, we got a working upgrade. And if you really like the Viper as we do, me and my son fly the Viper, and we really like it. It's easy to fly for a jet. It's fast. Like I said, we talked about at the beginning of the video. I broke the nose off of it, learned how to fly it with a tip stall. It does not like to fly slow, and when you come in for landing, we use full flaps, and about half throttle till we get really close to the ground, and then we cut it off. So it lands kind of fast, but the beauty of it is if you land fast, it doesn't seem to stall. I think Two Brothers RC actually has a video called like how to land a Viper properly or something to like that effect, and we learned from Two Brothers RC, so thank you for that video. Really helped us figure out how to do this the right way and stop me from tip stalling the plane on landing, trying to treat it like a prop plane on landing. So definitely a great video to watch. There you go. Let's get it turned over now, and go ahead and unplug it. I don't think we're gonna have to cycle the gear anymore. Go ahead and unplug it. There we go. Put the top on. And quite frankly, it's gonna look a whole lot better with those gear on it than what we had on there. The wheels are bigger. The gear look more sturdy than the originals that came on the plane. Obviously better than the Castle RC ones I took off. We think they're better. We'll take it to the field and try it out. If you like the video, like doing upgrades like this, like to learn about RC, like and subscribe.